sit by me. I'll show you how love can be.
Hey, we're back again, and this is I've lost track of how many videos I made. That's why I'm not saying thrift store vinyl finds number or so and so. I'll have to find that out later. I'll do that in the titles. So, but it's great to have, like I said in my last video, it's great to finally have some time to shoot, some or record, I should say, some stuff, and then, play with my computer, which actually I enjoy doing as much as I actually enjoy that more than sitting in front of a camera, because I know I'm not the most photogenic person, but I'd say for my age, and I'm at that age now, I'll be 58 this year, where I can kind of look back, and I've said this in one of my earliest videos on vinyl, that you can look back at times that weren't so great, but you still remember the music that you liked, whether it was on the radio or records that you bought. And another theme that I'm going to work up a little later in another video. It's been in my case, it's been over 50 years that I've had records. I wouldn't say that I didn't buy records until like the mid-70s start, but I really discovered my love of records when I was like about 7, back in 1967, when my dad was, I kind of go like this when I talk about my dad, sorry, that's a heavy subject, but when I was able to use the family record player or whatever, we had an old, I think it was like a mid-50s vintage Gerard changer. It was like a separate component. It wasn't some console thing. And he had this, like a little tube amplifier, which is basically this thing with the tubes sticking out the top. But there were a couple times, for instance, when my dad would get mad if I forget to turn off that amplifier. Not that it was going to like set the apartment on fire or something like that. But that's when I first grew to love records, at that very, very young age, and I discovered genres of music that wasn't being played, on the radio. But the funny thing is, and I've said this in other videos, we couldn't afford, or my folks really didn't buy many records, or they sure didn't buy any like pop records or pop rock records or whatever. But that fed my desire to hunt for old records and stuff, especially rock and roll and stuff like that of that era when I was a kid, because like if something was like on the top 40 station, it would get played in heavy rotation, and then they'd move on to something else. Sometimes there were like record songs that I really, really wanted or liked, and then I had to wait, almost decades in some cases, to find a certain song on a record, a 45 or an album or whatever. But the record I was playing coming in here, I gotta say, out of all my years of looking at Goodwill and other thrift stores or whatever, I've never come across a record by this group until now. This is one of my most recent finds, and I found this at this antique mall. And in my last video I think I mentioned it's like looking for buried treasure. Well, if you look for an antique mall, a lot of times all these different vendors in their little areas, sometimes they'll have little groups, or they'll have like a handful of records on the floor or something. And I was about to leave this mall, and I thought, well, I'll just kind of look around a little more. And I've learned how to scan these booths, because they have all different kinds of stuff. Too much crap, too much like bric-a-brac and glassware and stuff like that. But usually on the floor they might have like a few records or whatever, and you've got to comb through those records. And I did find this record. This is the first find I ever found by this band, the New Colony Six. And if you know anything about this group, they were kind of they were a band out of Chicago, pop group, and the reason why the records are so hard to find is they weren't really on like a big label or big record company, you know. And but I really like this record. I mean, it was made in '67, and it was in the Midwest where I live. You know, it's like most pop mentality. Even as late as '67, it was like most of these records were like, you know, a pop band. They basically, most of their lyrics were about, you know, the teenage romance stereotype, you know, trying to sell to, like, you know, their teenage girl demographic or whatever. But actually on the last track of this record is Mr. You're a Better Man Than I, and it's kind of like a psycho kind of track there. Not too scary, I think, for the mentality of, you know, someone in Chicago or Milwaukee in like the I should say 1967 or whatever. But this is a very cool record, I gotta say. And because these were not, you know, hugely distributed or whatever, like a regional record here, this one has some collector value. It plays really good. It's not mint condition. It's got surface scratches or whatever. But actually, this jacket is in great condition. And this was their second album. Their first album, which I can't recall the name of it, I think it was called Breakthrough. I looked it up in my records book, American Records, and that thing is worth, like, if it's in near mint condition, that record is worth like $500. Can you believe that? So, in fact, even on the back here, on their notes, it says, I'll read the last sentence here. It says, "Sounds good, doesn't it? Too good. ... We've decided not to have any liner notes. We'll let the album stand alone for what it's worth." Okay, and then next there's like a footnote from something called Opium, the Diary of an Addict by Jean Cocteau. And then there's brackets says, "You didn't think I thought of that myself, did you?" bracket. And then it says, "P.S. This is the second by the New Colony Six. The first one didn't sell very well. Period. But do you think it bothered us? Question mark. Yes, it did." So they had like a sense of humor about, hey, our first record didn't sell very well. Maybe that's why they're so hard to find, and a good one is worth like $500. So, but I really like this record. It was kind of like a folk rock, and they actually, the production values of this were like really high budget. It has a very high budget sound to it, and there's a lot of different arrangements, everything from harpsichord, organ, like sounds like 12-string electric guitar, so it sounds like stuff that the Byrds were doing. But I really enjoyed playing this record. It's like I said, most of the lyrics were like the typical teenage romance guy girl stuff, but it's a great record. I mean, you could tell they put a lot of work into this record, and they were great singers, good harmony singers. It's just they probably would have been much bigger if they would have made it on a major record company, you know, like the other, like groups like the Byrds or whatever did at the time. So that's a lot. That's enough, I'd say, about New Colony Six. God, but now I really want to find everything that they did, you know. So it's like I said, this was a lucky find. This was something that I was about to leave, and then I just did another look around. So that even now, I gotta say, if you're like looking for stuff at an antique mall, you gotta just stand there and just kind of carefully scan, because you never know when you're gonna find a little group of records. There's something hidden almost on the floor there. Okay, next I went to. I mentioned this in the last video. I went to Guitar Center and I bought these headphones. I'll show you these headphones. These are fantastic. I wanted something that sounded really good but was really comfortable to wear for extended periods of time. And I looked at some other stuff that was costless, and I gotta say, if you can afford these, they're like I think they were $180 or whatever, but they're fantastic, and they're made in Germany. So that's important, because you know that the person who like made these or assembled these was not getting paid a sweatshop wage, or okay, but these are Beyerdynamic DT 990 Pro, and they're kind of a hear-through design, and they got these really great ear cushions. And another thing is, all these parts you can get like replacement parts, so supposedly, for these. So it's like if the cushions wear out, it's not like they're junk or whatever, if the cord, you know, gets damaged or whatever. So I've only listened to these a little bit so far, but I really like them. They sound as good. They sound natural, like you're listening to your speakers. If you're obsessed with like bass or whatever, these are not what you want, okay? They're a hear-through design. They're not a closed-back design. But I gotta say, I really, really like these. I think this is probably I've owned a lot of different headphones, and I still have like 3 other pairs of different headphones. But I'm just, the great thing about headphones is you can, if you work like me, you work you work a different shift or whatever. You want to get home, you might want to listen to a record at like 3 in the morning or whatever. You're not going to do that if you live in an apartment on your speakers. So that's the Beyerdynamic 990s here. Now, like I said, after I bought those headphones, I went to a half-price Books, which I didn't even think of going, but they were in the same plaza. And I've been on the lookout for Kinks Records, and I've been able to find, you know, their earliest records. I think they're releasing them on the 50th anniversary of when they came out or whatever. But some of these other, like in between, not the latest ones or not the earliest ones, they haven't been released yet. But I really lucked out. I found 2 copies of really good condition records for like, I think they're like $5-6 a piece I paid. And I found Schoolboy in Disgrace. I played it through once. It sounds great. It's in very good condition. Just a little bit of wear on the jackets. But this is sort of like a concept theme album about, you know, English schoolboy. And then I found Low Budget. And I can't remember, I might have had this record in the past and got rid of it. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't. I can't recall now. But I really like this record too. So that's Low Budget and Schoolboy in Disgrace. Now, I haven't played these other ones yet, but I'm just going to show you a few more things here before this video gets too long. These seem to be in excellent condition. I did find these at Goodwill, and they weren't in like, they have this little kind of like table where they have stuff, you know how they have things that you look through. Well, these were like in a shelf below, so I kind of figured they must have brought these just in, and they couldn't shoehorn them in the top part of the table. But this one's in like almost mint shape. It's the Dave Clark 5 Satisfied with You, and I think it's in pretty much mint condition. It's got the original yellow label there. Then A World Without Love, Peter and Gordon. I mean, I pretty much I've looked collecting like everything from that, you know, that mid-60s British invasion era. I'm not going to open that one. Now here's something, I kind of wasn't sure if I wanted it, but I thought, well, it's got like I'm kind of like, you know, if you knew the mid-60s, Burt Bacharach was kind of like this, you know, he was like a super popular mainstream composer, you know, he did theme songs for movies and all that stuff. So this is like different artists doing some of his compositions or whatever, like Jackie DeShannon, What the World Needs Now Is Love. B.J. Thomas. I mean, we all know these songs. If you're a certain age, you heard these on TV or whatever. I found this one. I do collect soundtracks from classic movies. I haven't played this yet, but it's a soundtrack to Goodbye Columbus, and it's stuff performed by the Association, who were like, they were super huge at this era. And another British invasion duo here, Chad and Jeremy, Distant Shores there. So, more cool finds. It's just I just need to find the time to play these and stuff. And I'm just to tell you, it's like I'm coming off a week that I took a vacation from work, so I finally have time to enjoy listening to some of these great records or whatever. But at the same time, I have to make some hard decisions, because my shelves in my other room, my basically my media room or vinyl room, I pretty much have to shoehorn all this stuff into these things. It's like I'm really running out of space, or not. I don't want to buy more shelves and accumulate more stuff. It's like I have more than enough. It's like and I think all of us collectors, whether you collect like records or like I collect cameras, and I found more cameras lately, you gotta make some hard decisions sooner or later about how big do you want this to get? Do you want to become a collector or a hoarder? And I've said this throughout the years. It's like I'm kind of like right on that precipice. It's like I'm not going to keep something that I'm not terribly interested in. But pretty much like lately, what I haven't found in quantity, I've been finding in quality. So all the stuff that I'm showing you now, I'm definitely going to hold on to. So I'll say goodbye for now, and I want to say thank you. If you just subscribed to me from the beginning and you thought, well, did he disappear? No, I've always been here. I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube. I watch a lot of vinyl videos. I like to watch like the documentary stuff. There are some people, and I'm not ripping on anybody when I say this, but personally, the stuff I find most interesting from VC people in the vinyl community are ones where they put maybe a little more thought into their videos. If they want to talk about other subjects that are related, I like that. I don't want people. I'll have like, I'll turn some video on where it's like they're on a script and they say the exact same greeting, and then they just show their records and then they say goodbye. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, it's interesting to find out what you found, but there's so much more in this hobby than just acquiring records. It's a great hobby, especially if we're younger people. Hopefully they're like finding older records and they're discovering older music. Maybe they're broadening their taste, because maybe I hope they've gotten a decent player, or maybe a vintage player and an amplifier or receiver. And I'm going on a tangent. That's another video I want to make. I want to make a video for a younger generation that didn't grow up with this stuff, how to find a good turntable and the things you need for your records to sound better than you think they were. Don't buy some cheap ass portable Crosley or whatever. But that's in the future when I have the time. So I'll just say goodbye for now, and I hope to see you back here again. You can sharing my interests with you. Bye for now.